Hello, everyone. I'm going to allow everybody to join me, but hi, everyone. This is Mariana. You're watching Mexico Relocation Guide. Let's see who's joining me here. Hello, everyone. Mariana here at Mexico Relocation Guide. Thank you for watching today's live Q&A. We're going to cover some ground on residency visas in Mexico, answer some of your questions. But first, I would love to know where you're watching from. And I also got some feedback from people who watch these live streams that they don't really know how to engage with the live chat. So I want to show you real quick just how you can do that. I'm going to share my screen here and show you a live video on YouTube so you get an idea of what that looks like. If you notice here, this is just a random live that I found on YouTube. There's a live chat here on the side. And basically, if I type in any comment like, testing, it'll show it on that person's live chat. Okay, so if you're on your laptop or desktop, this is how you live chat on YouTube. And then if you're on your phone, it's a little bit different. So if you're on your phone, I'm going to try to show you here. I know that the camera resolution isn't going to be that great, but there's a button there that says live chat. All you have to do is click it, and then you can live chat on there. So hopefully that clarifies any of the confusion. But hi, thank you for watching. Susan, thank you so much for watching. Hi, Tony. Nice to see you virtually. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to get started in a few minutes, but I just want to let some people join us. And if you're just joining us, this is Mexico Relocation Guide. My name is Mariana. I am the owner of Mexico Relocation Guide, and we are your expert guide to learning how to live and retire in Mexico. Hi, Yvette. Thank you so much for watching us from Maryland. Glad you're here. Hi, April. Thank you so much for watching from North Carolina. We're about to get started in a few minutes. If you're just joining us, you can see at the bottom what the topic is about. Feel free to start thinking about your questions. I do want to say a disclaimer. I am not an immigration attorney. I am not an immigration facilitator. I work with some of the most reputable immigration attorneys and facilitators in Mexico who can help you to get residency in Mexico. However, I do have a lot of the information that you guys have a lot of questions on. So if I do not know the answer to your question, don't worry. I will try to find the answer for you. However, who does know the answer to your question if I don't is one of our immigration attorneys or facilitators, which are included in our Mexico Relocation course. I've included a link to that in our comments. So if you're interested in finding out what the course includes, check it out. But let's get started. So a lot of you guys have questions about residency in Mexico, why you should get it, what are the differences between a temporary or permanent residency, why you can't get appointments at the Mexican consulates in the US or Canada. And you have a lot of questions around income requirements, why they vary so much by consulate, what are the timeframes that you should be expecting to get your residency visa at, how you can show your pension, do they use Social Security, can they use other types of bank accounts, and why you would need to hire an immigration facilitator, or how do you even find one? So I'm going to cover a lot of ground on that today. I'm also going to cover what an FMM is and why you need to fill it out differently if you are a tourist versus if you are a resident of Mexico. Thank you for watching, Bob. Greetings to Cleveland. Okay, so let's get started with the first topic. The first topic is regarding an FMM. And if you're not familiar with an FMM, I had a copy of it right here. This is an FMM, and it's called a Forma Migratoria Múltiple. Essentially, what it is your tourist, it's an immigration customs form for you to come into Mexico. So you fill it out, and you're basically saying you have nothing to declare if you have nothing to declare. You fill out the top part and you fill out the bottom part if you're coming in as a tourist. Now, it's very important that if you're coming in as a resident, that you never allow the immigration agent to mark you down as a tourist. Why? Because that cancels out your residency visa. A lot of people don't know that. They come into Mexico, they fly in, or they drive across, and they don't know that information. And then they mark themselves or they have somebody mark it, and that person isn't fully trained, and it marks them as a tourist, and it cancels out their residency. And what you have to do then is start the process all over again. So what you do is, just from what I've heard from other immigration attorneys that we work with, is when you fill this out, there are some boxes here at the bottom, and there's one that says canje, there's one that says turista, which means tourism, and then there's one that just says, are you a resident, tarjeta residente temporal, or tarjeta permanente, which means permanent or temporary residency. So just mark one of those before you come in, depending on what you're doing. Canje in Mexico is the exchange of your residency stamp to a residency card. So when you get residency in Mexico, normally 90% of people have to start the process outside of Mexico at a Mexican consulate, whether you're in Canada or the US. And when you do that process in Canada or the US, they give you a temporary stamp on your passport. And you have up to 180 days to travel to Mexico and exchange that for a residency card. So that's what the canje process is. You'll hear that word a lot. It's CANGJE. Anyway, when you exchange it, then you get an actual card. And when you have that card, you are now a resident. So that people have questions around that. So don't let anybody mark you down as a tourist if you come in. Thank you for watching from Louisiana. Welcome. Another thing that I'm going to cover today, and feel free to post your questions, by the way. There, like I mentioned, if you are new to live chat, there's a button on your phone. If obviously you're watching us on YouTube, there's a button that says live chat, usually at the bottom where you see share or something like that. So feel free to post your questions and I'll answer them as we go. Now, to enter Mexico as a tourist, you have up to 180 days if you're from one of the countries of the no visa necessary, like where they have a friendly agreement between Mexico and that country. And I have a list of all those countries that are under this friendly no visa required list in our website. So if you're interested in that, go search the blog. But as a tourist, you're allowed to come into the country for up to 180 days. And what that means is that once those 180 days are over, you cannot renew that tourist visa. You have to leave Mexico. Otherwise, you are breaking the law and you can get detained. INM, or Immigration National, or Instituto Nacional de Migración, or the National Institute of Migration in Mexico, is cracking down on that. So they're putting down checkpoints throughout different highways. They're stopping different buses. They're checking mostly for people coming from Haiti and people coming from Guatemala, Honduras. So they're mostly looking for this influx of people who are really going through Mexico right now. They're not really looking for like the American, Canadian who has overstayed their visa. However, if you do happen to be one of those people that is on a bus with a bunch of other people that don't have a legal status, you could end up getting detained. And there have been cases of people who have been thrown in jail because they broke the law. So just know that you can actually be detained. A lot of people end up paying a fine. So I've heard more that people end up paying a fine for overstaying their visa, but just know that you can actually end up going to jail. So when I'm coming for 2 months this winter, what do I need to do? Regarding what? The FMM, you just need to fill it out. It depends on where you're coming from. I'm assuming you're coming from the US or Canada. But when you come, if you're flying, the airline will give you this FMM. They'll pass them out to every passenger on the flight. And you have to fill it out. And then you don't have to do anything. If you're coming in as a tourist, you don't have to do anything. The border agent will mark you down as a tourist. They'll tell you exactly how many days they're giving you. It's normally 180 days. But if you're coming down for 2 months, you don't have to worry about anything. 180 days is equivalent to about 6 months, just so you're aware. But anyway, going back to people getting detained, there are a lot of people who, due to the pandemic, they couldn't go back to Canada, they couldn't go back to the US, and there was a lot of uncertainty. People were overstaying their visas in Mexico. And what ended up happening is when they would try to leave, then, immigration would ask them to pay a fine for overstaying their visa. However, recently, because of the influx of a lot of immigrants to Mexico or passing through Mexico to get to the US, INM, or the Instituto Nacional de Migración, is actually cracking down on people who are overstaying or don't have a way to show their legal status. So just keep that in mind. Now you have 180 days to come in, right? But after that 180 days, and it's a great way for you to come and check out the country, find out if Mexico is right for you, travel to different cities, maybe even get, a 3-month or a 4-month rental. Airbnb is a great platform for that because you can do long-term rentals on Airbnb. Sometimes your Airbnb host will even give you a discount if you stay for longer than, say, 30 days. It depends on the Airbnb, obviously. But it's a great way for you to come and check out the country and see, is Mexico right for me? Do I like it here? Is the food okay for me? Do I like the infrastructure? If you're a digital nomad, maybe you're wondering, is the internet strong enough? Am I going to be able to work from here? So it's a great way for you to come and check out the country without having to go through the process of residency. However, if you are thinking of staying for more than 6 months or more than 180 days, you should definitely consider a residency visa, either temporary or permanent. Why? Because there were people in the past who would just be a so-called perpetual tourist. So they would leave Mexico every 180 days, leave for like a day or two, and then come back on a new tourist visa. And that was kind of a loophole that a lot of people knew about, and you wouldn't have to get residency. But again, immigration is cracking down on that. So what they're doing now, what I've heard of, is they will either not give you 180 days, they'll give you maybe 30 days or 20 days, or what, it's really up to the agent that you get. And or they're denying people coming in. So if you have all your belongings in Mexico, maybe you have pets, maybe you have a lease, I just wouldn't risk it. So you definitely need to consider residency if you're staying for more than 180 days. Let's see, we have a question here. If you don't know where you're going to live, how do you provide an address as required when applying for the temporary residency visa? That's a great question, Tony. A lot of people, it depends on where you're going to live, obviously. So what he's asking is basically if you're coming to do the canje process or the exchange process in Mexico after you've gotten your stamp in a Mexican consulate, and now you travel to Mexico to get your residency card, you may not know where you're going to live permanently yet. You might not have an address in Mexico. And immigration does require you to have an address with a proof of an electricity bill or a CFE bill showing your address. It doesn't have to be in your name, but it does have to show the same address on your application. So what if you don't know where you're going to live? What a lot of people do is they talk to their Airbnb host and ask them if they can have a copy of their utility bill. Or some of our immigration facilitators can also get in touch with your Airbnb host if they don't feel comfortable with that. Our immigration facilitators have told me, some of our attorneys or facilitators have told me that they will get in touch with your Airbnb host and ask for that type of documentation with the means of trying to get, immigration an address where they can find you, if in case they need it to. Now, you are supposed to tell immigration within 90 days if you move to a different address. So what a lot of people end up doing is they'll give the initial address, like maybe it's a hotel or maybe it's an Airbnb. They'll give an initial address to INM. And then once they find their permanent address, they'll let INM know about their permanent address. So I hope that answers your question, but you do need to have an address in Mexico when you do the canje process, because INM is going to require that from you. All right, let me go back to my notes. So why would you, like, which visa, right? Which residency visa should you get, temporary or permanent? Well, it depends. It depends on a few things. It depends on whether you are of retirement age, what the Mexican consulate considers of retirement age. If you have a pension, it depends on your income requirements. It depends on a few things. So let me just break down temporary or permanent residency. Temporary residency, you need about $2,100 US a month in a bank account, or showing a Mexican consulate that you make at least $2,100 in income. And this is after taxes. This isn't like pre-tax income. This is after taxes. So net $2,100. And the way you show this is with bank accounts or bank statements. So you have to show at least 6 months of your last 6 months history bank statements, showing that you have at least $2,100 in there in a bank account as a balance. So some consulates will accept pay stubs where where you can show that you have this amount of income after taxes. So it's like the gross and the net amount. It depends on the consulate that you're applying at. Different consulates have different income requirements. For example, and I have notes on each one here, but let me just pull that up. Let's see. So just to give you an idea of the disparities between income requirements by consulate, for example, the Denver consulate requires $1,500 in income and $25,000 in savings to become a temporary resident. Whereas the Houston, or let's say the Dallas consulate, requires $2,100 or $2,100, or roughly $36,000 in savings. So it's a pretty big difference, right? Could mean the difference between you being able to qualify for residency or not. Now, it depends on where you're going to be applying from and how much you're willing to travel to be able to meet some of these income requirements. Working with an immigration facilitator, they can work with you on exactly which consulate might be best for you to start your process at, which ones are easier to work with, which ones may be a little bit tougher. Some consulates will not accept any applicants that are not living in that vicinity. So for example, Los Angeles will ask you for a utility bill with your name on it, with your address within that county, if you want to get residency at the Los Angeles office. So certain consulates are different. But anyway, for temporary residency, you need about $2,100 for the last 6 months with bank statements showing that you have that balance, or about $36,000. Again, showing a balance for the last year, 12 months, through bank statements. So you have to have one of those. If you don't qualify with that baseline, you probably will not qualify for residency in Mexico. So just keep that in mind. For permanent residency, you need about $3,500, again, for the last 6 months in bank statements. And some consulates will want to see that it's through either Social Security or through a pension or through a guaranteed lifetime income. They won't just accept bank statements. So again, this is why working with an immigration facilitator is necessary, because they know all the ins and outs of this. And then also for permanent residency, you need about $140,000 to $150,000 in income, depending on the consulate that you apply at. Every consulate has different income requirements, and there's a reason for that. You see, for Mexico, the immigration law states that consulates are supposed to use a formula called the UMA, which is basically Unidad de Medida Segura, or de Unidad de Medida. I don't know the exact last letter. Sorry, I don't have it memorized. But they're supposed to use a formula called the UMA. And it's basically Mexico's minimum income, or like minimum wage, times a certain amount of days to show that somebody has enough economic solvency to be able to live in Mexico. So for temporary residency, it's like the minimum wage in Mexico right now is 141 pesos, which is about $7. And depending on the exchange rate, it can be $7 one day, it can be $6 the other day, it can be $8 a different day. So it's 141 pesos times 5,000 days of that 141 pesos for you to qualify for residency in Mexico. And different consulates will apply different exchange rates. So depending on whether the exchange rate is 19 pesos to $1 one day, or 20 pesos to $1 one day, or 21 pesos to $1 one day, different consulates have different exchange rates. So that's why there's all this disparity between the different, sorry, I got a comment here, the different types of income requirements. Do you mean I need to show at least $2,100 deposited in my account per month, 6 months straight for temporary visa? Yes, I mean that you need to show that you have a balance of at least $2,100 for the last 6 months in a bank account to qualify for temporary residency in Mexico. And working with an immigration facilitator, they can tell you exactly how the Mexican consulate is going to want that formatted, like what they'll accept, which bank accounts, how they will want to see statements of that. So you definitely want to work with one of our immigration facilitators. All right, some other notes here is, so Mexitel appointments, like why is it so hard to get an appointment at the consulate? I don't know. It's very hard right now to get an appointment at the consulate. I know that. I've seen it with my own eyes. I am a Mexican national. I have a Mexican passport. I also have a US passport, but I have a Mexican passport, and it expired last year, and it was impossible for me to renew it. I just wanted to renew it to have it just in case, right? Just in case I needed a second passport, because there was a lot of uncertainty last year. But anyway, long story short, it was impossible for me to get an appointment at the Mexican consulate in Texas, in Austin, to get my Mexican passport renewed. And for residents, I've heard that it's even, or for people who are foreigners who are trying to process their visas, I've heard it's even harder, just because certain consulates only process passports. Certain consulates will do both, visas, passports, manejo de casa, different other services that they offer to foreigners. So this is another reason why I think hiring an immigration facilitator is the best money you'll ever spend. All of our immigration facilitators, all of our immigration attorneys inside of the Mexico Relocation course will offer a service where they will make the appointment for you at the Mexican consulate that you guys have agreed on, whether you're going to be traveling or whether you're going to be staying within your city, depending on how much your urgency is, or depending how much you're willing to travel, or depending on how much time you have on your hands. But our immigration facilitators will have somebody dedicated checking every single day to make sure to get you an appointment. Now, why is that important? Why is that the best money I think you'll ever spend? Because if you don't want to be sitting in front of your computer for hours a day, refreshing to see what appointments have been added for the day, somebody will do this for you. Another thing is you might not know how to check for that information across different consulates. So somebody will do that for you as well. All of the information usually can be translated in English by doing a simple right click and then translating to English. But as you know, Google doesn't always translate perfectly. So again, an immigration facilitator or an attorney will do the translations for you. We'll basically get the appointment for you, fill out the paperwork for you, and then we'll also finish the process for you in Mexico, if that's what you agree for them to do. You can always work out different deals with them. But long story short, every Mexican consulate only has a certain amount of appointments available to them, and they only release a few at a time. And everybody's trying to get the same appointment. So you're competing with like everybody, right? Trying to get these same appointments. So that's why you won't see some available. And sometimes you'll see some for one office available one day, and then you'll refresh a few hours later, and then that office doesn't have any appointments available, but it will show you a different city. So that is the reason why. If you have any more questions around that, feel free to post them in our live chat here. I'm going to try not to give away our immigration lawyers' personal information, just because, we have that information in our Mexico relocation course. So I'm going to try my hardest not to give away all of our information for free. Is there a consulate office in Houston? Yes, there is an office in Houston. In the Mexico relocation course, Tony, you have access to this. There's a directory of different Mexican consulates around the U.S. and around the world. And it has their contact information. So just do a search for that. Okay, some more information on here. So some residency visa timeframes. Thank you. Buy the guide. It's worth it. Thank you. I think so. You have a lot of information in there. I'm telling you, it's very complete. There's thousands of hours put into this. So you don't have to do the research. There's a lot of hours put into this. And I want to also say that the Mexico relocation course was not only written by me, it was written with the help of immigration attorneys, healthcare brokers, real estate agents, real estate lawyers, notaries, doctors. Like it was written with the help of all these other professionals so that you get information that's not only like verified, but it's actually fact checked and it's timely. So it's accurate, it's up to date. And Tony says he absolutely agrees. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yes. Tell everybody how much the Mexico relocation guide is worth it. Now, we were going to talk about residency visa timeframes. And now there's two things that I want you guys to consider here. You first have to start the first process of your residency in a Mexican consulate outside of Mexico. Most of you, that's where you have to start. Why? Because the only people who can start the residency process in Mexico are people with family ties to a Mexican national. So for example, if my husband wanted to get residency in Mexico, I'm a Mexican national. We could start the process in Mexico because he's married to me. However, if I was not a Mexican national and he wanted to get residency in Mexico, then, or if I was not a permanent resident in Mexico, I had no legal status in Mexico whatsoever, and he wanted to get residency in Mexico, he would have to start the process at a Mexican consulate outside of Mexico. So I hope that's clear to everybody. But what I was getting to is residency visa timeframes. So you have to start the process outside of the Mexican territory at a Mexican consulate. You make an appointment. That's usually where the longest, where the holdup will be, where you'll have to wait the longest. Because like I mentioned, Mexitel only releases a certain amount of appointments per office. They're trying to improve this, but I don't work for the Mexican consulates, and I can tell you that they only release a few a day. So that'll be what you'll have to wait for the longest. Once you get your appointment, you will have to show up, obviously. I suggest you show up at least 10, 15 minutes early. Come appropriately dressed. Mexican culture is very, especially in offices and immigration offices and just like more government offices, they do, they won't say it directly, but they do expect people to come dressed like business casual. So, no really short shorts, no really low revealing like tank tops, that kind of stuff. For the men, try not to wear like open-toed shoes and, sandals. Again, it depends on the consulate, but I have heard some people being given a hard time to get a residency visa, and they think it's because of how they were dressed. Long story short, you will get that appointment. You have to show up, and they will check your paperwork. And when they're checking your paperwork, they will usually do an interview. They'll ask you why you want to live in Mexico. They'll ask you maybe some information about your bank statements, just to make sure that what you're saying, coincides with what you're showing them. They'll ask you, where you plan to live or what you plan to do when you're there in Mexico. So don't be surprised if they ask you these questions. They're just trying to gauge, how much of what you're saying actually corresponds to the information you're giving them, and, whether you say something that maybe sounds off. So just don't be surprised by this. It's totally normal. They're not trying to give you a hard time. They're just curious as to why you want to enter their country and live in it. So you will have that appointment. Usually, they'll ask you to wait a few hours at the Mexican consulate, and they'll give you your residency stamp. They'll tell you whether you're approved or denied. Usually. Sometimes, depending on what time your appointment is, and if it's close to closing hours, they might ask you to come back the next day or at a different time in the future. They do have up to 2 weeks, up to 14 working days to be able to give you a yes or no answer. So just keep that in mind that they do have that time frame. However, most Mexican consulates will tell you either the same day or at a follow-up appointment. Now, you get your residency stamp. Now you have up to 180 days to travel to Mexico. You have up to 6 months to change your residency stamp to a residency card, which is called canje. And once you enter Mexico, you have up to 30 days to really complete that canje process. And to complete that canje process, you have to make an appointment with INM. Again, hiring one of our immigration facilitators is really the best way you can go. They will make all the appointments for you. They will show up with you. They'll guide you. They'll tell you where to pay. They'll tell you where to take your fingerprints. They'll translate everything for you. It's the best money you'll ever spend. But if you're doing this alone, you will have to make an appointment with the INM in Mexico at the office that you're going to, the consular or the immigration office that you're going to do the canje process in. And once you get that appointment, it depends on what office you're in. I know Mexico is full of consistent inconsistencies. So once you get to Mexico, and depending on which Mexican immigration office you go to, some will be able to give you your residency card the same day, and some will ask you to come back in 2 weeks. So it just depends. Why? Because some Mexican immigration offices have the capacity to be able to print out the residency card, do all the paperwork, the biometrics, everything within that office. And some offices do not count with those resources. They have to send it out to the Mexico City office or to the Guadalajara office. So an immigration facilitator will tell you exactly the time frames. They can't be exact because it also depends on the agent. But again, immigration does have up to 2 full weeks to give you this residency card. So if you are coming in for the canje and you're not staying permanently in Mexico, you should allow for at least 2 weeks to be able to get your residency card. Do you have to prove that monthly 2,100 income will be maintained after moving to Mexico? Yes, you're supposed to prove that it will be maintained. So I don't think, if I'm understanding your question correctly, are they going to audit you in the future? No. When you go for renewal, they don't ask you to prove that income again. When you get your temporary residency, you usually get it for 1 year. The first time that you get it, your residency card, they'll give it to you for 1 year, and then you can renew it for up to 3 years after that. You can renew it for another year again, or you can renew it for another year again. You can renew it for up to 4 years. So after 4 years, you have to either become a permanent resident or you have to start the process for a temporary residency again. However, I think what you're asking is, are they going to audit you at renewal time? Or are they going to ask you for this income again? No. When you go for renewal, it's just a matter of paying the fee and then renewing your card. It's kind of like renewing your driver's license. You don't have to take the driving test again. So I assume the immigration facilitator I would hire in the U.S. to help me with the initial hurdles to obtain the temporary visa is a different facilitator than the one in Mexico? No, it's the same one. The same one that if you hire somebody in our Mexico relocation course, if you hire one of the people that we recommend, it'll be the same one from the beginning of the process in the U.S. or Canada, whatever Mexican consulate you're going to finish the process in Mexico. They'll be the ones that help you finish that process. Now, why is this important to know? Because when you hire an immigration facilitator and they're going to help you with this process in Mexico, you have to hire an immigration facilitator that lives in the vicinity where you think you're going to finish your immigration process. Why? Because an immigration facilitator or an attorney isn't going to travel. If you hire somebody in Guadalajara, which is in the central northern highlands, and you are planning to move to Playa del Carmen, you should hire somebody in Playa del Carmen, which we have in the Mexico relocation course. Why? Because that facilitator, that attorney, is going to meet you at the INM office where you plan to finish your process. So if you're planning on going there anyway, you should hire somebody locally. If you're planning on going to Huatulco, and that's where you're going to make your base out of, then you should hire one of our immigration facilitators in Huatulco. If you're planning on going to Rosarito or Ensenada, then you should hire one of our immigration facilitators in that area. Because again, they're going to help you with the process locally. And every single state in Mexico has a different immigration office. So just keep that in mind. It depends on where you're going to end up. I won't have a job. I won't have my current job after moving. Yeah, so basically to answer your question, you just have to qualify once. And when you go for renewal, you don't have to qualify again. When you get your temporary residency, if you are planning to do permanent residency after your temporary residency is up, you do not have to prove the same income requirements for permanent residency after that. So basically, you don't have to prove an income after that. It's as simple as just changing. You do have to pay a fee, and your immigration facilitator can help you with that whole process of changing from temporary to permanent status. So just keep that in mind. Okay, one more topic that I want to talk about is why I think that, for starters, why should you hire an immigration facilitator or lawyer, and what kinds of questions you should ask them so that you know exactly what you're getting. So very important. When we made the Mexico relocation course, we did a lot of research. I mean, there's so many people out there who say that they work with different expats in their immigration process. There's so many immigration facilitators out there, right? Like you can get on Facebook and ask around and you'll get inundated with comments for different immigration facilitators or attorneys. Now, not everybody's created equal. Not everybody is not everybody is unfortunately honest. Or dishonest at this point. Some people will claim that they know immigration law in and out, and they don't, and they'll take your money, and then you get denied, or they don't show up, and you will have no way of verifying this because maybe they don't have an online presence, they don't have reviews, nobody recommended you to them, you just found them. So this is why I think it's important for you to do your due diligence. And it's important for you to, when you do find an immigration attorney or facilitator that you want to work with, if you're not buying our Mexico relocation course and you're finding it on your own, you need to know what questions to ask them. So you need to know, first of all, can they give you references to other people that have worked with them? And I mean, like, ask for multiple, not just one or two. Two, what are they including? Are they going to include your translations? Are they going to make the appointment for you at your Mexican consulate? Some immigration facilitators do not offer that service because they know how hard it is to get an appointment, and they don't have the capacity to be on there just checking day in and day out. What are their fees, and exactly how much are they going to charge you upfront? What is their fee when they're done? What are some other things that they need you to get for them? Like, do you need to get something apostilled? Do you need to have your own translations for your bank statements? Do they need to be in US dollars? For most Mexican consulates, depending on where you're getting the process started, but most Mexican consulates, you will need to show the amount in US dollars. So you need to ask these questions before you hire somebody. Now, again, even asking those questions, there's no guarantee that you're going to hire somebody that will just take your money and run, right? So we did a ton of research. We not only asked around, we actually vetted these people. We interviewed them. We asked for reviews. We asked for references. We did all the legwork for you on finding the right immigration attorneys. And we have a list of them who we recommend in our Mexico relocation course. Now, even then, right, I'm still updating that list constantly because sometimes some people they don't align with our values. Sometimes they've given people really bad advice. They're not in the Mexico relocation course anymore, because it's really important for me that you get the right information, that you get the right help, and that ultimately you have a good experience. You're buying the course to take the guesswork and the frustration out of moving to Mexico. So I don't want to add to your frustration. And that's the point. Now, why I think it's important for you to hire an immigration facilitator, for so many reasons. I've listed all of them already. They'll get you your appointment. They'll translate things for you. They'll prepare you for that interview, like what things they might ask you. They'll help you write a letter if that Mexican consulate wants you to write a letter for them. They will help you with the transition of exchanging your temporary residency to a permanent one. They'll meet you at the Mexican office in Mexico whenever you go and do the canje, and walk you through that process. And most of all, they're just experts in what they do. They do this day in and day out. So they know exactly what questions you're going to have. They know exactly what concerns you may have. They know they've seen it all. They can guide you through that process to ensure that you spend the least amount of money, that you're not going back and forth, that you spend the least amount of time, and that, there's a good chance that you will get approved for residency. So I hope that answers some of your questions. Let's see. I went to San Diego Consulate and was denied, even though I had 12 months of bank statements showing $40,000 in savings. Can I apply at a different consulate? You can definitely apply at a different consulate. I believe San Diego, let me see. San Diego should require $34,000 in savings for temporary. So did you ask why you got denied? Was it only because of income? I mean, was there something that they asked when you did your immigration interview? Like, I would love to know more background on that. I'm not sure exactly why you got denied, but you should have had enough in savings for them to accept it. So I don't know if maybe you didn't have the right bank statements, or if they weren't exactly in your name. That's another thing in Mexico. It's very important. At a Mexican immigration office, it's super important that your name on your passport or on any of your identifications is exactly the same as your bank statements. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes they also want the bank to sign off saying that they, guarantee that this is not a fraudulent statement, that you didn't just make this up. So it depends on the consulate. Does immigration require an FBI or criminal background check? No. Mexico is one of the few countries where you can get residency without any type of FBI or criminal background check. Now, if you wanted to get citizenship in Mexico, if you wanted to become a Mexican national, they may do a Mexican background check. So they will do a reporte de antecedentes penales, and that's just in Mexico. If you want to get residency, you do not need an FBI or criminal background check. So that's a great question. All right, I'll take a few more questions, and let me know, has this been of value to you? Is this helpful? Do you feel more clear about the residency process in Mexico? I would love to know. Let me know in the comments below if you think this is helpful, and we'll do more of these. And then next time I'll have one of our immigration facilitators on the call, so that you can have, not only me talking about this, but actually somebody who does this day in and day out. Can you answer Tony's question too? Sorry, apologies, you may have missed this. Should you start the visa process when ready to move, or could you do that a year or so in advance? That's really up to you. It depends on your urgency. I would say do it. You definitely don't want to do it too far in advance before your move. Why? Because you have to renew it. If you're going to become a temporary resident, you have to renew it. And in order to renew it, you have to go to Mexico. For permanent residency, you do not have to renew it. So once you become a permanent resident, you are indefinitely a resident. You can become a Mexican national after 5 years, but once you're permanent, you are permanent. You don't have to renew it. So you can do that years in advance. However, if you are becoming a temporary resident, I would suggest doing it no more than 6 months before you plan to move. Why? Because you have to go back and renew it at the first year. Like they were only going to give it to you for 1 year, and you have to go back to Mexico and you have to be there in person to renew it. After that, you can renew it for 3 years, and then you may not come back for another few years after that. But I hope that answers your question, Tony. It's really a matter of personal preference. If you don't mind going to Mexico again, then you can do it a year or so in advance. Very helpful information. Thank you. Extremely helpful information. Okay, good. Well, I want to thank you guys all for watching. I hope that this has been useful. There is a link in the comments. It's our complete Mexico relocation guide. It's a course that has everything that you would need to move to Mexico. And again, it wasn't only written by me. It was written by me and with the help of our professionals in the online course, healthcare agents, real estate brokers, or real estate agents, lawyers, notaries, real estate lawyers. It has all the information that you would need to make the move to Mexico the right way. So that's important because there's a lot of free information out there, right? There's a lot of free information. So what makes this different is that, one, it's online, so it's kept up to date constantly. Like I'm constantly updating it. Two, it's not only written by me, it's written by other professionals. And three, you get the whole thing. It's a lifetime access to the course with the updates, with the private Facebook community for one price. So you never have to pay again. It's not like a monthly subscription. You pay once, you get it for life. So can I apply for permanent residence without first getting temporary residency? Yes, absolutely. Depends on your age. Most Mexican consulates will want you to be over 60 years old for you to apply for permanent residency because they consider permanent residency kind of like a retiree residency. Plus, a lot of Mexican consulates will want you to show that you make enough in Social Security or some other pension to give you permanent residency. So not only do you have to meet like the age requirement, but they may also require that you have this lifetime guaranteed income. It depends on the consulate again. But yes, you can absolutely go straight for permanent residency and then instead of applying for temporary residency. Also, if you have a spouse and you get permanent residency, you can start the process for your spouse in Mexico because now they have a family tie, right? Now they have somebody in Mexico who has a residency visa. For that to happen, you do need to show an additional amount of income for that spouse. So again, your immigration facilitator can help you through that process. So thank you guys for watching. I am so glad that you guys were here. I hope you enjoy your Saturday. I hope that wherever you are, you're having a beautiful day. It's sunshine outside. And let me know if this was helpful to you. Again, don't miss it in the comments. There's a link to the Mexico relocation course. It has a lot of information regarding healthcare, immigration, rentals, cost of living, best places to live, pets, pet transporting companies, movers. I mean, it has a ton of information on how to move to Mexico and retire in Mexico. So hopefully this was of value to you. And I will see you guys on Wednesday. I have another live stream with a wonderful lady from Atlisco, Puebla. Her name is Marta, and she's one of our recommended private relocation tour guides. But she's going to talk about her experience being a Mexican American, moving back to Mexico from California, and how she can help you be your private relocation tour guide if you're interested in Puebla. So I hope that is valuable to you. It's on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central. So all you have to do is follow us on Facebook if you're not already following us, or subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so that you get an instant notification when we're live again. All right, so thank you guys. Thank you, Klaus, for watching, and thanks everybody for watching. Have a wonderful Saturday. Adios.